Frederic Chopin was a Polish composer of the Romantic era known for his piano compositions. In fact, he's only known for his piano compositions. That's because he only wrote for the piano. He never wrote a symphony, and he never wrote an opera. Out of all of his works, only 11% were written for something other than solo piano. But don't think of this as a limitation of Chopin's composing ability. In fact, when fellow composer and friend Franz Liszt wrote of Chopin's work, he had this to say: "Oh, we have not yet studied with sufficient earnestness and attention the designs of Chopin's delicate pencil. Habituated as we are in these days to consider only those composers worthy of a great name, who have written at least half a dozen operas, as many oratorios, and various symphonies. In making an analysis of the works of Chopin, we meet with beauties of a high order, expressions entirely new, and a harmonic tissue as original as erudite. In his compositions, boldness is always justified. Richness, even exuberance, never interferes with clearness. Singularity never degenerates into uncouth fantasticalness. The sculpturing is never disorderly. The luxury of ornament never overloads the chaste eloquence of the principal lines." With that, let's take a look at one of Chopin's most famous works, Nocturne in E-flat major, Opus 9, number 2. Let's start with the title, because it gives us some important information about the piece of music we're about to look at. First, a nocturne is a type of music that is inspired by nighttime, or day turning into night, or the moon and the stars, or anything having to do with night, literally, music of the night. Next, we have the key signature that the piece is written in. In this case, E-flat major, so that's 3 flats, B-flat, E-flat, and A-flat. And finally, we have Opus 9, number 2. This gives us an idea of when the piece was written. In music, an opus is a composition or group of compositions that are usually numbered in chronological order. In this case, this piece was written when Chopin was around 20 years old, and number 2 just means this is the second piece that's grouped into this opus. Now let's look at the sheet music. It's written for solo piano, and unlike some of the pieces we've looked at before, Shostakovich, I'm looking at you. This piece is pretty short. Average performance time is about 4 to 5 minutes. Don't let that short time fool you though, there's a lot of technicality and expressiveness packed into those 4 or 5 minutes. The structure of the piece can be broken down into 2 main sections, an A section and a B section. The A section gets played 4 times throughout the piece. Each time the A section gets repeated, it gets a little more complicated, with Chopin adding more ornamentation each time. The B section gets played 2 times in the piece and serves to break up the repetition of the A sections. Finally, there is a short coda at the end to close out the piece. Let's take a closer look at the A sections. Here's the first one. Nothing too fancy, a simple melody being played over a waltz-like accompaniment that helps reinforce the 12/8 time signature, breaking it up into recognizable groups of 3 notes. The second time the A section is played, Chopin adds ornamentation and chromaticism to the melodic line. These are the 2 main stylistic elements we'll be looking at today. In music, ornamentation refers to things like trills, grace notes, and faster groupings of notes that lead from one part of the melody to the next. Chromaticism refers to notes that are outside the written key signature. Basically, anytime you see accidentals like these natural signs here, the composer is using notes outside of the written key, and that is chromaticism. Let's listen. The third time through the A section, Chopin dials back the changes by keeping the second and third measures roughly the same, but adding in more ornamentation in the first and last measures. The last time through the A section, the only part that changes is the last line, where Chopin adds in just a little bit more of ornamentation. If we look at all the A sections overlaid on each other, we can see that the third measure remains relatively unchanged throughout the piece. But the other measures go through significant changes as Chopin adds in ornamentation and chromatic passages to develop the melodic idea. The coda also contains an element that is characteristically Chopin, the cadenza. A cadenza is a part of the music that is usually played freely, without tempo, and tends to have a virtuosic quality that shows off the technical abilities of the musician. Let's listen. One last thing I want to share with you is the second to last measure of the piece. Since this is a nocturne, the music is supposed to evoke a feeling of nighttime, and I can't help but feel that this measure sounds like an old clock, chiming the early hours of the morning, bringing the night to an end and the music as well. Now that we've broken down the music into its separate parts, let's listen to the whole piece. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little different today. I've been feeling a bit under the weather lately, but hopefully that won't slow me down. If you would like to support this channel with as little as $1 a month, please check out the Patreon link here.